Hello, these are questions from Task 1, EdTPA Academy. Question 1, what do you mean by film everything?
That's a great question. For task 1, remember you're going to plan 3 to 5 lessons, and we want you to film each day of the 3 to 5 lessons. When you select your videos for task 2, they must be part of a lesson from task 1. And when you select your work sample for task 3, it must be something you plan during one of your 3 to 5 lessons. Everything flows together. But by filming everything, we mean film each day of your 3, 4, or 5 lessons. Even if you think you nailed it the first day, continue to film until you've taught your learning segment.
Where can we find the rubrics on VIA Showcase?
All rubrics can be found in your EdTPA handbook. You will locate your EdTPA handbook by looking at the VIA Showcase. A video of how to find everything on the VIA Showcase is on its way.
In a co-teaching situation, how do I address another adult correcting student behavior or being in the classroom video during the whole group instruction?
Co-teaching is a great practice, and it's certainly something at the university that we want you to continue. However, it is not what EdTPA wants you to demonstrate for your 3 to 5 learning segment lessons. It's fine if another adult's in the video, as long as you're the one in charge. My principal used to call it large and in charge. It needs to be very obvious that you are the one in charge of that classroom. So unless you're in PE, if you're in PE, it's okay if you have 2 groups of students working each with a different teacher. For everyone else, remember to just have a conversation with your team teacher and ask them if it would be okay if for those 3 to 5 lessons, you are the solo instructor.
Would it be better or more beneficial to teach the learning segments to a class with multiple IEPs or just a couple?
It really doesn't make any difference as long as you're addressing the needs of any IEP students you have, as well as any other learning needs. You're going to have more than enough to write in your commentary.
If we are working ahead and start videoing in the next 2 weeks, can we send you specific parts of our work to ask questions?
We're always here to answer your questions and support you in any way, and we may answer any questions about any task at any time. However, EdTPA has very specific guidelines about what type of help we can give you. We will not be able to look over your work, and we cannot proofread anything. We cannot watch your video, and we cannot tell you what went well or didn't go well or what clips you should choose. In most cases, if you ask us a direct question, we can answer it, but we cannot tell you if something looks good or if you should continue or keep it. However, I want to stress to you, if you want to start filming before our next meeting, you are strongly encouraged to read the handbook for task 2, as well as making good choices for task 2. These 2 documents will guide you in what you need to capture on film. If you're not ready to start videoing in the next 2 weeks, please relax. You have plenty of time, and we will go into more details when we meet again.
I have 8 gifted students. Do I list them all in the context for learning or just 1 to 2?
In the context for learning, you would list gifted in the left-hand column and then the digit 8 in the middle column. If you have a learning group you don't list in the context for learning, you can still address how you plan for that learning group in your context for learning.
On my context for learning, how specific should my supports, accommodations, modifications, pertinent IEP goals be?
Follow the examples given to you in your program-specific content for learning. If the student is pulled for 30 minutes 4 times a week and that will impact your lessons, for example, the student will be present during one lesson but not the others, you should list it. If it will not impact how you teach, do not list it. If you do not have a student with an IEP or 504 plan, you will just type none or this does not apply.
Here's an example of the chart for the IEPs and other learning needs from your context for learning. As you can see, there's an example for each different type. You would list the number of students that have that need, and then a brief section about accommodations or modifications.
But remember, for every student you list on that chart, you're going to have to talk about them in your commentary. So only list the students that will be impacted by your instruction for those 3 to 5 lessons.
On the context for learning, should I list a program the school has even if I never use it?
If you think it will have an impact on the 3 to 5 lessons you teach, then list it, even if you don't teach it. If you don't think it will have an impact on your lesson, there is no need to list it.
Just to be clear, we can use content lessons from other teachers if we cite it.
Yes, well, I strongly suggest writing your lesson plans in your own format to be sure you address all of the areas of EdTPA that they recommend you do in making good choices. The bulk of the lesson plan can be copied from a textbook or any other resource as long as you cite it. Feel free to use graphic organizers, PowerPoints, YouTube videos, worksheets, teacher paid teachers, anchor charts, etc. from any source you wish. There's no reason to create everything you use for EdTPA. Just your commentary needs to be 100% of your own, but you will need to cite anything you did not create.
How many lessons do we need for task 1? What about for task 2? Are they the same lessons?
You will need to write 3 to 5 lesson plans for task 1. You will then video yourself teaching those same lessons. For task 2, you will select 2 clips from the video of you teaching the lesson plans from task 1, and we will go into discussion about task 2 at our next meeting.
I only teach math and science for 2 classes. I have 47 students total. Am I uploading all of those student work with EdTPA, or do I focus on one class?
For EdTPA, your class should be one group of students that is present in the classroom at the same time. So if you have 2 classes, I would suggest you select one of them. Remember, the elementary EdTPA is literacy based, so your instruction should focus on literacy standards only. It could incorporate a science or social studies topic into it, but that should not be the main focus. For example, you may teach main ideas or details by reading a passage about volcanoes, but your central focus is main idea and details and not volcanoes. If you have continued questions, please contact us.
Do we include rubrics, answer keys, expectations on prompt 4?
Prompt 4 is typically asking about academic language, so you will not need a rubric or answer key for prompt 4. If you are thinking about question 4 on your evidence chart, that is your evaluation criteria, and you will need to include a rubric or an answer key for your evaluation criteria. If this was not your specific question, please email us and let us know, and we'll address your concern.
Can you have more than one way of discourse for the 3 to 5 lesson plans?
Yes, EdTPA likes to see you doing multiple hands-on activities per lesson. If possible, please explain how you are adjusting the activity for any special needs students. Say, for the whole class, I'm doing this, and for student 1 or for my gifted student or something like that, I changed it, and this is how I changed it. But the more ways you can teach, the better it is.
How would I cite a YouTube video I used during my lesson?
You cite your sources using any form you want. There's no penalty for any sort for citing a source incorrectly. You simply put the title of the video and the URL address. EdTPA does not allow working links on the citation page or in your commentary.
What if you do not finish an entire lesson, like you run out of time, and the next day you have to make it up? Should you mention it or not?
Remember that task 1 is all about your planning to teach. So you're going to write the commentaries if you've not taught it yet. In task 2 or 3, you may want to mention that you had to go an additional day in case that makes sense in the video. For example, you're wearing different clothes for the beginning of the lesson than you were for the end of the lesson. But in most cases, it's not necessary to mention this. Just video everything. And if it takes 4 or 5 days to teach instead of 3, it's perfectly fine. Remember that half of your scores are real classroom teachers and they understand. Remember, task 1 is all about what you plan to do. A good teacher makes adjustments as necessary.
How do we select 3 students for task 1? Do we follow and refer to our focus students throughout task 1?
Task 1 and task 2 do not require you to specifically talk about your 3 focus students. The focus students will be the students you display the work from for task 3. However, in task 1 and task 2, you will need to discuss how you differentiate instruction and how you differentiate support for individuals and groups of students, like gifted students, struggling students, ELL students, different learning styles, that type of thing.
Here's an example of in rubric 2 where your plan supports. For a level 3, you're going to talk about the whole class. For a level 4, you would talk about the whole class, individuals, and groups. When during the semester should we be planning on teaching our lessons?
That's a great question. And if you look at the EdTPA pacing guide timeline that you find on VIA, that will help you select and keep up with each week, how you keep up with each one of your tasks.
Here's an excerpt from the pacing guide. As you can see on the left-hand side here, it says September 19th through the 25th. And then over here, it tells you to video all lessons this week.